It's Friday, August 29th, and a pretty consistent weather pattern has just evolved. And we can see that weather pattern just like yesterday and the day before that rally is going to bring some severe weather to the upper plains convergence zone, then also back along into even the Gulf Coast on the Texas Louisiana border. And then this would mostly be for the threat of some 60-mile-an-hour damaging winds. This would be pretty conditional for both areas with not a guarantee if you're in either of these 5% risk areas, then these do extend both of our entire marginal risk areas. But for our hail risk, we do notice that it's only going to be confined to our upper plains convergence zone. And this would just be for that conditional threat of some potentially 1 to 1.5 inch in diameter hail. Then for our tornado risk, there isn't really anything technically outlined at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a potential tornado risk evolve with really anywhere in our marginal risk today's, especially up here near Nebraska. And things to be aware about that are not just severe weather. We will see a pretty decent potential for some flash flooding today in both of our site risk areas. Both of these, we could see potentially 2 to 4 inches of rain, and one is going to be in Louisiana, stretching back into Mississippi, and the other one is going to be in eastern New Mexico and the Texas Panhandle. Then we do have a really, really large kind of nationwide, or it at least stretches pretty much the entire nation or length of the nation, marginal risk with potentially seeing 1 to 2 inches of rain if you're in this area. So this just extends a lot of the upper plains, Texas, and then the Gulf Coast. And then we're going to see more evidence of that consistent weather pattern of really seeing some very nice weather in the entire country, except if you're in southern Texas and south and central Florida. And south and central Florida and southern Texas, you could see anywhere from those mid 90s to low hundreds feels like temperatures. But for the rest of the country, you're likely going to be in that low 70s to mid 80s feels like range. So pretty much everybody who's not in Texas or Florida, you're going to be seeing some very nice weather today. And for the first time in a couple of days, we actually do have a risk outlined on the National Hurricane Center outlook. It currently has a 20% chance of formation, but is important to remember that this is coming just off the coast of Africa, and this isn't really expected to develop on any of our models. Could that change? Of course, but this is just a reminder that is still hurricane season. We still do need to be vigilant about what's happening out here in the Atlantic. But right now, this isn't really posing a threat to any land, and it's not really something to worry about. And this is what the radar could look like and what I believe will be our main risk of severe weather today out here in the upper plains and then parts of Nebraska and even South Dakota. And we're going to notice this little blotch of rain moving pretty quickly eastward across Colorado. These are actually the remnants of a tropical system from the Pacific, sort of traversing up the southwest. And what this is going to do, this is going to bring quite a bit of flow to this region, as well as a lot of convergence in our upper plains convergence zone. This is going to bring definitely some severe storms today. And what is something that we do notice around the early afternoon hours, specifically down here along the New Mexico-Colorado border, these could potentially bring that threat of some 60-mile-an-hour damaging winds and some small hail. And depending on how long-lived these storms are, if they can survive all the way up until when that low-level jet is expected to kick in, which they don't really appear to down here in the Texas Panhandle, but if they were to, hypothetically, there could also be potentially a spin-up tornado risk with those as well. But more on that low-level jet, we could see some additional storms initiated during the low-level jet when it kicks in, with the help of course, that flow brought by the remnants of our tropical system around pretty much western Kansas. These could potentially have that threat of all hazards of severe weather. Then another area to watch is going to be a little bit of a vorticity maximum along a trough up here in northern Nebraska and southern South Dakota, mostly northern Nebraska though. These could also bring that conditional threat of all hazards of severe weather. And then moving a bit more south, we can see that there will be a lot of thunderstorm activity pretty much all the way along the New Mexico-Texas border, even stretching down into the Lubbock area. Now, these storms aren't really expected to be as strong, but they definitely could still bring that potential of some hail and gusty winds, maybe even the threat of a spin-up tornado, although that threat would be really close to zero and not likely to happen. And then for our Louisiana risk area, it's going to be kind of what we've been seeing the past couple of days. Just now it's in Louisiana, which was in the Red River yesterday, but this is just a low pressure system or embedded vorticity maximum within kind of our big jet stream dipping down, bringing all those cool temperatures. And there could be some strong storms pretty much anywhere from daybreak all the way until pretty much the late afternoon to nightfall. And the only threat with this would be that conditional chance of some 60-mile-an-hour damaging winds, although that's not looking super likely right now even. And here's a look at our 500 mile winds, kind of giving us a better idea of why our storms are initiating where they are and also where that organizing flow is going to be. And we can see the remnants of that tropical system from the Pacific bringing quite a bit of westerly flow up here in the upper plains, also being squeezed by a bit of a high pressure system down here in southwestern Texas. This is why we're expecting to see a lot of thunderstorms bubble up around this region. Then we'll also see a bit of a trough dipping down from up north. This is why we could see some storms in that Nebraska risk area, also with a low pressure system embedded. And then down here in Louisiana, we'll see that embedded low pressure system kind of just traversing the area along a trough that is dug down super southward all the way into the panhandle of Florida. And then that is also why we're not really expecting to see a whole lot of weather within this region out east, because this trough is kind of hindering all of that. And here is our storm environment in that upper plains convergence zone. We're going to notice a couple of things immediately. Once we do have quite a bit of organizing shear and some weak wind variance, so definitely some organized storms. Then we do have a decent lapse rate, 7.6 Celsius decreasing per kilometer, with sufficient cape up here near our freezing level. And our freezing level is a bit high, which is why that risk of hail isn't super large, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some 1 to 2 inch in diameter hail today. But the main thing is going to be it's moist enough and it's unstable enough, 3,000 dew points. So definitely possible of seeing severe weather today. Then our 3 cape is going to be quite good as well, around 102. Then we also have some dry air aloft as well. So some favorable mixing for those 60-mile-an-hour damaging winds. And then something about the tornado risk. We do have a pretty unstable low level in the atmosphere, really high low level lapse rate. And then as we get closer to nightfall, this base or storm base is going to lower quite a bit and our shear is going to improve. So there could potentially be the threat of a couple of weak spin up tornadoes when that low level jet kicks in, as well as pretty much all hazards of severe weather at that time as well. And this is the storm environment moving a bit northward into that Nebraska risk area, where I also do think we could potentially see all hazards of severe weather today. Once again, we have some decent organizing shear nearing 30 knots, then some wind variance. So definitely some organized storms. And then another thing is that we have sufficient cape for some severe weather, then also sufficient dew point, 66 dew point. So definitely moist enough. Now, one thing we did see in our weather models is that these storms won't really initiate until they get kind of an extra boost from the low level jet. And that is because there is a bit of a stable air layer from 1 to 3 kilometers. Now, if that could erode potentially, we could see some storm initiation a bit earlier, but it's looking like it's going to be closer to nightfall in that early afternoon to evening hours. Now, other things we could see with this would potentially be a tornado risk. We do see some nice curvature in our hodograph, and also our shear and helicity parameters are not bad at all. It would just kind of depend on how messy the storm mode is, and also our storm base will absolutely be close enough to the ground for that to happen. And for our hail risk, we do have a good enough lapse rate, 7 Celsius decreasing per kilometer, and some, it's not really that much, but we have some cape up here near our freezing level as well. And then for that damaging wind risk, we don't really have a whole lot of dry air aloft, but we have severe weather, or at least parameters which would be supportive of seeing some severe weather, so that could be in play as well. So definitely all hazards of severe weather will be possible with our Nebraska risk area. And the last place we're looking at is down in Louisiana. It's really going to be a very simple reason why we could see some strong storms, extremely moist environment, 76 dew point, and definitely sufficient cape nearing 3,000. So severe weather is possible. Then a 3 cape is also going to be pretty decent as well at 90. So definitely severe weather is possible, but because our freezing level is high and our lapse rates are low, as well as us not really having any organizing shear, that hail threat is going to be close to zero. But I don't think the main risk is going to be 60-mile-an-hour damaging winds today, although they're definitely possible, but it's going to be the threat of some flooding. This precipitable water is super high, 2.41. So I do think the main risk in our Louisiana and Gulf Coast stormy area is definitely going to be for that potential of seeing some flooding out there.